Like most accounting problems, problem 6, which is exercise 112, problem 7, excuse me, which is exercise 112 in your book, you have to wade through a bunch of babble to get to what you need to know. The first important thing you know is this company makes automobiles, so all the costs associated with making an automobile are value added. They had no beginning inventory. That's going to be important. They purchased 8,000 batteries. You see a number, you know that's going to be important. At $80 per battery. They withdrew 7,600 batteries. So they had 8,000, they took out 7,600. Of these, 100 were used to replace batteries that were being used by the company's sales staff. That's not going to work in process, that's going to overhead. The remaining 7,500 batteries were placed in cars being produced. Of the cars produced during April, 90% were completed and transferred to finished goods inventory. Of the cars completed during the first month, 30% were unsold. The important thing for you is that 70% were sold. So, we've got those pieces of information. Let's get started. One A wants to know the cost of batteries and raw materials. Well, the beginning inventory was 0. That makes that part easy. They purchased 8,000. They withdrew 7,600. So that really should be down here. Sorry. So the ending inventory of batteries is 8,000 minus 76. 400 batteries. The cost per battery, $80. So the ending raw materials in the battery account were $32,000. So this stuff really isn't tough. You just have to make sure you get all the pieces. Now, the cost of batteries in work in process. They tell us that there was 0 work in process at the beginning. Then they tell us that the batteries that were withdrawn for production were 7,500. You see where I'm getting these numbers from. No inventory, 7,500 were taken from raw material inventory, put into work in process. So altogether there were 7,500 batteries in work in process. Then they tell us that 90% of those batteries were transferred to finished goods. They don't tell us that directly, but a battery goes in a car, the car goes to finished goods, and 90% of the work in process was completed and sent on. So 90% of 7,500 is $6,750. Or 7 units. You gotta remember, label, units. And the value of those batteries was $80 per. So we had 75. We transferred out 6,750. So there were 750 units left in work in process, and the cost per battery was $80. So the work in process for the cost of batteries was $60,000. Again, label, label, label. It's just so easy to get the wrong thing. Okay, the next piece it wants us to do is the cost of batteries in finished goods. These are the batteries that were put into work in process, then transferred with finished cars to finished goods inventory. So once again, our beginning inventory was 0, and that does make life so much easier. We brought in the 6,750 batteries. That's how many units were transferred into finished goods. 6,750. Okay. That's how many were transferred in. That also happens to be how many units were available. 6,750 units. Now, of those 6,750 units, 30% remain unsold. So 30% of those batteries are still in our finished goods. So 70% have been sent out to cost of goods sold. Okay? 30% were unsold, which means 70% were sold. So 70% went to cost of goods sold. They were transferred out. So 6,750 times 100% minus 30%. I wanted you to see that. 70% of 6,750 is 2,025. Okay, so that's the batteries that were sold, that were left in finished goods. The other 70% gone. Cost per battery, $80. Again, label, label, label. So the cost of the batteries in finished goods, not in work in process, finished but not sold, $162,000. And I really don't give a damn about the batteries. I really care that you see how these pieces go from one spot to the next spot to the next spot. It's one long conveyor belt. You go from work in process, finished goods inventory, cost of goods sold. It's a continuous flow. Okay, now the cost of batteries in cost of goods sold. Well, these are the ones that are in finished goods. So the ones that we took out, and that 70% is 4725. I should have written that down. That's the batteries that came out. It's 4725. So they're the batteries that are in cost of goods sold, because they were sold. That's still there. So number of batteries that were sold, 4,725 units, batteries. Each battery cost us $80. So the cost of goods sold with regard to batteries was 8,000. Jesus, I can't even read my own numbers. $378,000. It's $80 a battery times 4,725 batteries. The cost of batteries sold for April was $378,000. The next part it asks us is the cost of batteries that are included in selling expense. This is that selling and general administrative. Remember those 100 batteries that we pulled out for the use in our sales staff. Right here. Okay. So we took out 100 batteries. So we took out 100 units. Each one cost us $80. The selling expense with regard to batteries is $8,000. Now, what I need you to see, and we talked about this in class, is we have raw material, we have we have direct labor, and we have manufacturing overhead. Those items go to work in process. That goes to finished goods inventory. That goes to cost of goods sold. There's a wall there. Everything on this side of the wall is balance sheet. Everything on this side of the wall is income statement. Remember, in my class, BS stands for balance sheet. So, what would stay on the balance sheet? What would be on the income statement? Look at the picture. Raw material, direct labor, work in process, finished goods inventory, all go on the balance sheet. Cost of goods sold and selling expense would go on the income statement.